Welcome to Improve Your AL Standard with StandardDialog. Hey, I'm Eric, and I have just noticed yesterday, I think it was, that actually I have begun to use the StandardDialog page type way more within the last couple of weeks, and actually changing some UI patterns to something I think that's more intuitive, and users seem to like this. So I've thought, let me do a video on standard dialogues and show you guys how it works and how you can use it, and maybe that can be an inspiration to improve your UI also. So let me first actually explain what StandardDialog is. Here is Business Central. I have opened the user list, and so that's a fairly normal page. We have a list page. We have those all over the page. I can go in. We have a cart page with some fact boxes, and all that is so standard. But if I go in and then I use the change web service key function here, blah 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 blah, it doesn't matter, I get a new page, and this page is interesting because it has an OK and a cancel bottoms. It says edit, which is kind of weird. There's a close, you can make it bigger, and there's something in it. So this page is a standard dialog, and let's try to create one of those to begin with. I just ignore all this and find, here is Visual Studio Code, and I just started, before I turn on the record thing here, that I started a new one. So let's create a new page. We'll just call it standard dialog.al. This is a page, has a number, standard dialog test, that's a good one. So let's get the obvious one out of the way, that this is a standard dialog page type. And let's put a caption on so we can see what goes where. This is this is the caption. What was that? I'll do some layout here. Area. Content, and let me just, to begin with, I'll actually add a what about X? Hang on. X is a text, Y is a text, Z is a text, just so we have something to play with. So let's add in X here. Place now equal all, caption. This is X. Let's see what happens if we do area fact boxes. So in here we need to add in a part. So let's find, we'll call it box, and then let's find a something dimensions fact box. I don't think that's actually important right now. Okay, so now we have a layout. So also let's add an action, and let's just do processing, and we'll add an action here called test. Caption equal test, application area, oh there we go, equal all, and we'll just do a trigger on action saying what about saying hello YouTube. There you go. So that was a lot of typing very quickly. So I created a page, the standard dialog. Let's make sure that, oh wow, that this is our startup page. So we have a standard dialog, we have a field on a content area, we have a fact box, we have an action in the action bar. So let's run this thing. Everything compiled. So we should be in some sort of business here. Better log in. Okay, so here is our standard dialog. And well, we got a caption and it's saying edit. So I guess that's something. We got this is X, but there is no actions here, right? We added an action. There's no action anywhere. There's no fact box. We can make it bigger. There's still no fact box. So the standard dialog is a reduced page. So if we can remove the action because the action does not matter, it's simply not used on this page type. We can use the fact boxes area because that is not used. You could argue that perhaps why will Microsoft shouldn't they test and say, okay, this is standard dialog. There's no way you can put a fact box in here, but clearly they didn't. So let's add the other ones here, just so we have some. This is Y, and we'll add the last one also. This is set. So now we have a dialog box with, press this one, dialog box with 3 fields in. So pretty nice, pretty simple page type. Of course, quite often when you have some sort of dialog, you might want to place a label to begin with, some text, and everything you can do like that you can do here, but you're limited to just content. That's the only area that works on this page. So how do we actually use a page like this? Let me show you. So I think we are going to let's actually create a new file. Customer list extension, so a page extension, standard dialog, it doesn't really matter, extends customer list. So let's, while I remember this, go back to this one being 22 in the launch JSON. And let's add an action what about at first? That's how we roll here in processing. An action, we'll just call it test again, equal test standard dialog. Application area, of course. Let's do promoted. Promoted category is process. Promoted is big. I don't think that works, has any effect on anything anymore. Promoted only is true. And then trigger on action. So normally when we call a page, we can do it in multiple ways. We have the option of say if page.run modal, and then we'll do page standard dialog test. We can add a record, and then we can use the return value here. That's not the way I usually do standard text, because standard dialog, because normally I don't even run it on a record. We could add in we could add in a, wow, there we go, a source table, but that's really not how I usually end up using it. So the way I have been doing this is that let's call this SD standard dialog. I create a page variable, and the fantastic thing about a page variable is that then the lifetime, the scope of the variable is longer than the page just being opened. Meaning that now on this guy, we could create a procedure called setup. Let's do something like this. So it takes 3 parameters. Hang on. Like this, and then do x equal underscore x and y equal, hang on, underscore y, and z equal underscore z. So what I can do here is that I can now, before this page has been shown, I can call the setup function and say that this is Eric and this is soccer, and then Euro 2021, or is it 2020 in 2020? I don't even know at this point. So now we're calling the function into the page, but the page haven't been opened yet. And then we can do sd.runModal. And this function will return an action. And if you remember, oh, we haven't on screen yet. So we had two, we have OK and cancel. So we can say that if runModal is returning an OK, then we can do, let's do message OK. Otherwise we won't do anything. So let's try this to begin with. So I deploy. Let me close some of these old ones. Okie dokie, and somewhere here we have a function called test standard dialog. As you can see, now the fields are populated. So even though we called the function before we did the runModal, the lifespan of the variable is it lives from the moment it was created until it's out of scope. So the sd.setup works fine here. I hit OK and I got a message OK. So let's do that again, and I do test. I hit cancel, I don't get an OK. So we can test. We can also, let's actually just verify that this will work. So now I'm testing to see if we get a cancel if we hit the other one. I'll do test again, test standard dialog, here's cancel, and I get cancel. So it's easy to test for the result. And I think in this example, I'm gonna do OK, because that is what makes most sense. So now we can do the exact same thing as we did when we actually did the setup function. So if we go back to our dialog and then we get a create another procedure. So we can do this multiple. We could use a function called getX that returns a text, and this one will just say, oh, come on, exit X. And let me just copy this guy and do a get Y that returns a Y, Z that returns a Z. Of course, this could also be one function like this with var, transfer variables, var transferred or by reference. But I could now do something like this and do sd.getx, comma sd.gety, comma sd.getset. So now I'm grabbing the values out of the page again. So the page variable, even though the page has been closed, the page variable lives on. I call my test page here again. It opens. We say Peter instead of Eric. We say snooker. We say snooker fest 99. I hit OK, and that's the value we have back on the calling page. So this exact pattern is what I'm using all over the place. You know, we have the standard dialog. It has the nice which and as I started this video saying that we have the usual page type, but what the page type that where standard dialog is actually different is because we kind of have the OK cancel, so we can have something that is not modified in the database and so on until we hit OK. So you can put up a dialog, have people enter something, and then not do anything about that until they hit OK or cancel, which is pretty nice. Quite often back in the days, in a lot of cases we kind of misuse reports to do this, because you had the request form of a report, but this is so much cleaner. That from the calling side, you create a setup, you call a setup, you run the page, and if the user clicks OK, then you do what you need to do with the result from the standard dialog. And looking at the standard dialog, well, you got the layout, you got the setup function, and you got the data retrieval functions. So the only thing you cannot do is that you cannot start running this one again. So if we do this just for fun, so we call it, we get OK, and then we call it again. Let's see what happens. So we're here, and I'm just searching. I don't even know where that menu item went. So this is good. I click OK. And we got a breakpoint here. So later, not a breakpoint, but we got an arrow. So I'll just press F5 twice for some reason. And we got the message and say that the object has been run. So if you want to run it again, you need to clear it. But that's the only limitation of the page variable, that it lives from the moment it's declared until it goes out of scope, and the functions are there, and you can call them as many times as you want. So we could do this all night long, message. So we can, there's no that you can only call the setup once, you can only get the data once or something like that. The only thing that's limited is that you can only open the page once per variable, unless you use the clear. But if you use the clear function, then you also reset the entire internal structure. So now we got two messages here. So that's the standard dialog. As I started this whole video with, I've been using this quite often because it kind of gives a natural UI that sometimes we make it too complicated, that you have to click something in the action bar to kind of acknowledge what you're doing, but there's also something in the corner where you can just close it, so people, you can hit the X, and it's unclear what's happening, but the standard dialog will actually, you know, give you a big OK button that can be clicked, and I think it's very clear UI, and as I said, I find myself using it more and more, so I suggest you give it a try. Perhaps right after you subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments below how you're using StandardDialog, if you are, or why you're not using it. Anyway, until next time, have a wonderful day.